Morning, everybody. Welcome to this Swanky session. Swanky is a green tea. This is part of the 6-week set of green teas. We've had Lavish. Last week we had Yellow Mountain Reserve. It's been a fun set, and it's been amazing to hear all of you comment on these various teas. One of the things, well, let's do shop news first, and then we'll leap right into this. Shop news this week. The boss and I went down and attended Travis's wedding near Modesto. Beautiful ceremony, just a wonderful time hanging out with everybody down there. So Travis, for those of you who don't know, and his mother and family have been longtime supporters of the shop, almost since the very day we opened. So this was a very fun event that we still have something stuck in customs or somewhere.
Yeah, it's good now.
I don't know, inspection routine. It's been there since May 19th. We have no idea how to get to it. But, this is just these times. And so we've actually requested a second set of samples rather than to try and figure out any more what's happened with the current set. So that's kind of some of the main stuff that's happened this last week. So let's jump right into Swanky, because Swanky is a small varietal. What do I mean by small varietal, and why is this important? So to give context, for those of you who remember Divine Plum, which is a red tea, that also was a small variety. And typically with small varietals, you get unusual flavors, you get limited distribution, and you get hard to find. Well, Tunshi Green, which is Swanky, is just that tea. Tunshi is a relatively tiny area that, from a perspective of governance, belongs to Yellow Mountain City. But it's actually an hour outside of the city. It's a beautiful, beautiful area. And there's a reason that it grew relatively fast, starting from, around the year 1000. So there were many factors which led to the growth of Tunshi, but the number one factor is a confluence of rivers in that area, which meant that workers, business people, traders could navigate those rivers and reach all the way down to Hangzhou. Why is this important? And obviously you can tell we're going to do a little history today. Not a lot, but a little bit. Because Hangzhou was the capital of Southern Sung Dynasty. Southern Sung Dynasty was roughly 960 to 1127. And so the capital of China was in Hangzhou. So relatively speaking, very southerly. Now, in relationship to Beijing, very southerly, and in relationship to Shanghai, just a little southerly. So it's central on the East Coast, though. It's not on the coast, but it's about an hour by train ride away from the coast. And from Shanghai, you go slightly south and west. So this area, Tunshi, which is in Anhui Province, the southern part of Anhui Province, think Yellow Mountains, then think Yellow Mountain City, and then an hour to the south, think Tunshi. That's where Tunshi is located. And an enterprising merchant in about the year 1000 built 47 places where workers could live, because he realized that this place was going to develop quickly because, again, the Southern Sung was already in Hangzhou And anything in terms of trading to get to Hangzhou was going to be advantageous. So that's why this area developed. Now, having laid that groundwork, why is this area still famous today? Well, there's several things about Tunxi which are very unusual. First off, it's one of the most or best preserved villages from an architectural standpoint in southern China or central China. So it preserves Ming architecture, it preserves Qing architecture, Qing dynasty, Ming dynasty architecture, and even a little bit of pre-Ming architecture. And the government has done a really good job of turning this area into a spot where tourists can come down. It's convenient to get there. It's in a relatively flat place. So there's lots of things in relationship to location and history that make Tunxi famous. The other thing today that makes it famous is lots of artists from all over China enjoy going to Tunxi because it's really picturesque. And so they sit on the edge of a lake and they do all these drawings. As you walk into the park, where the village is, or where the small town, it's not a village, where the small town is, you see all these young artists trying to recreate the iconic landscape of that area. Really a different pace. The food is special there because there's lots of local goodies, which are very different from other parts of China. The fish, they have a couple fish dishes that are very famous throughout China that come from Tunxi. And they have two varietals of tea that come from this area. One of these varietals, many of you are experienced with, and you've had it before. It's called Tree of Life. But Swanky, not so many of you have had, although some of you have had it. And that's the other varietal that comes from this place. We like the unusualness of both of these varietals. And you remember at the start, what I said was these are small varietals. So these varietals are not growing all over China. They're only in Tunxi. And so Tunxi really includes this village, but then if you look out from the village and you would be looking north and east, you see mountains. And in those mountains, in the foothills of those mountains, is where this tea grows. And the characteristic of this tea in terms of processing is a little different from other green teas. Tree of Life is a little different from other green teas. You have more processing steps. The fundamentals are in place. You have to have the fundamentals in order for it to be called green tea, right? So the definition of green tea really is the fact it's unoxidized. You can stop right there in the report. That's the definition of green tea. That's the gross definition or the big definition, our overarching definition. But as you get to the details, we find that everybody, every area is doing green tea in a slightly different way. So let me pull up a few examples for you. The first would be Dragonwell. Dragonwell, they pick, they wither, they fry, they bake. Oh, maybe I forgot to say they shape. They do shape. They shape and cook at the same time. So they flatten the leaves and make them uniform, the bud and the leaves, while they are pan frying. So that's one style. You have style of Venerable Silver Tip, where they pick, wither, fry, shape separately from the frying process and bake. All of these green teas have slightly different approaches to shaping, because you think of Loquat companion and the shape is almost like a curled up snail. It's small and it's got lots of trichomes on it, and the shaping is very delicate, and they use some tools to shape it. You look at heirloom, and heirloom, which is from Sichuan, they don't do very much shaping at all, and it's just all about the butter. Here, for this particular tea, Swanky, they go through those processes, and including shaping, but then they go through some other processes. They have about 6 additional processes. These 6 additional processes, unlike some other styles of tea, don't take a huge amount of time. So in other words, this is not a 3-month enterprise. It's still 2 days, 3-day enterprise, and then they're done. But it is additional steps. They sieve the tea a little bit differently. They expose it to another round of withering a little bit later in the process. So they're doing some different things. And as it turns out, every region is doing something slightly different. In terms of green tea, it can only be slightly different, right? Because once you have determined, well, we're not going to allow this thing to oxidize, then there has to be sufficient heat. Oh, we don't want this thing to mold. There has to be sufficient reduction of moisture by the end. Oh, we'd like this thing to be beautiful. You have to have the aesthetics that come from shaping. So you can include sieving, you wither again, you shape again. You might even fry a little bit more. There are all these possibilities when you're focused on green tea. But that's it. You can't go beyond that, because at the end of the day, it's got to have that greenness. And that greenness derives from not killing, but denaturing the enzyme, which causes oxidation. So Swanky's no exception. But the exception is that there's some more steps that go on. And really, when you think of small varietal, what they tend to do, and remember, I didn't use the word always, I said tend. What they tend to do is spend more time trying to make it look more uniform. If it's a big varietal, one that is very popular, or one of the 10 top teas. So example, Yellow Mountain Reserve last week, they don't spend that time. That's not where they spend their time in terms of making it look so uniform. They spend their time on process, they spend their time on finding the area in the mountain which is going to produce the most, whatever it is they're looking for. Is it fragrance, the most depth of taste, whatever it is they're looking for. That's what the farmers come to understand. Here's the ideal, here's the standard, here's the bar. The small varietal, what they spend their time doing is, hey, you know what? We're not competing on the national scale. So therefore, we have to make ours more beautiful, more interesting. Do they really need to make theirs more interesting? Well, when you taste this, you may say, well, isn't great taste enough more interesting? And the answer really is, these years, great taste is really more interesting. But in the early years, so say 600 years ago, you're competing with all these other small varietals, as well as major varietals that are sent to the emperor, and you're competing. And so you're thinking about how do I distinguish mine from others? These days it's different, because the market is so massive. It's looking for differences. and it swallows those differences right up. And that's why, by the way, when you ask yourself, well, do I have to go to Sophie's to get Swanky, or can I just go to the tea shop over in whatever place and get Swanky? And the answer would be, you can't get Swanky, to the best of our knowledge, anywhere else in the US. And the reason being is that it's really a small varietal. And if you aren't introduced into these farmers who produce this, then you're just not going to have access. And it's not that you won't have access, you won't realize you should get access. Let's remember something. How many teas does China have? Let me think about this. Oh, this requires a number more than 10, so I have to really think hard. Oh, it hits me. 7,500 different varietals. Even we who've traveled up and down China and gone to so many different places, have we been exposed to all 7,500? Not even near. Not even near. So hence, every time we go to China, one of our self-given assignments is, hey, let's find a new varietal, something that we haven't experienced before. You know why? We're thinking of all of you. And we're thinking of you because we know that as the 1%ers, you want the 1%er teas, the things that you're not able to get elsewhere. So this is why we have Swanky in the shop. Well, and let's face it would never have made it to the shop if we didn't like it. So that's the other thing. We get things that are interesting, but only if they taste extremely interesting. We don't get things just for notoriety. We get things because they taste great. So that's kind of a backdrop about Swanky. What does this area look like? Well, as I said, it's in the mountains. Most of the tea is between, let me do the conversion, it's 1,800 feet above sea level to about 3,000 feet above sea level. It's in a relatively narrow band. It is foggy a lot in this area. There is abundant water. There are abundant water resources in this area. Remember, it's just south of the Yellow Mountains, so there is a lot of rainfall. There's a lot of rivers, small ones and large ones, running through this area. And again, the most important thing is it's foggy a lot of the year. In the mountains, you go out, you look, ooh, it's fog there again. So it has probably at least 100 days of fog a year. And so you ask, well, why is fog important? The mixture of fog and sunlight affects the amino acid content. So it affects whether it's sweet or not. It also affects some of the formation of alcohols. Alcohols here, excuse me, are compounds within the tea. It's not the alcohol you drink at the bar. No, not those type of. But it's the things that make the tea smell fragrant or smell of something else, smell sweet, smell honey-like. It's those compounds. So those are all formulated according to the varietal and according to its exposure to sun and fog. Simple as that. Soil in this area is particularly good. It's acidic. It's around 5. Yes.
Of the 7,500, are some of them, does that include some of the varietals that the Tea Institute has worked on developing for farmers?
Yes. So the question is, I just threw out the number 7,500. Can you give me an exact breakdown of how many are done by research institutes and how many are done by God? Oh, wait a minute, that's not how I meant to ask that question. And it wasn't exactly asked that way. So realistically, there are probably at least 6,000 that are naturally occurring in nature. And the remainder will be stuff that's been and it continues to be developed within institutes. Yes.
So is Swanky one of those naturally occurring varieties?
Oh, great question. Both Swanky and Tree of Life are naturally occurring. Yes. Yeah. So this gives you some background. What else is important about this area? So when you go to this area, just like when you go to the Yellow Mountains, think Yosemite. So I ask you this, when you're driving through Yosemite, do you see housing tracts next to magnificent mountains? And the answer is no. You see nature essentially in its full glory. And this is where this area is located. Yes, there are buildings at the lowest levels where there's water, and they use that as transportation to get to places. And yes, they built those so that workers who were working in a variety of trade-related industries could live there. But once you go out of that area, it is just spectacularly beautiful. And you don't see, you see villages, but you don't see a bunch of housing developments. It's very rural and the air is very good there. And it's just a nice, interesting place to be. And it's a place that unless you know Chinese history, you wouldn't think to go, and you wouldn't think that it would have become so modernized so quickly. What again led to that modernization? And I don't mean tall buildings, it's more modern in the sense of worldly. Why in the world were they worldly? Are they worldly in Tunxi? Because of the tea trade that ran through Tunxi. Remember, tea was going to the imperial court. When the imperial court was in the south, everything that was sent as tribute from the north passed through Tunxi. And this is why you had this village developed there, because they were packing things, sorting things, getting them ready to go to the report. It was a major stopping town. It was so famous that even in Europe, they were aware that this place existed because they knew that some of the tea had come through Tunxi. And they also had an inkling that tea came from Tunxi, but they didn't know. And how all this stuff went away after a period of time. Why? Because other areas within Anhui developed an even more direct relationship with Europe. So Chimeng County developed a more direct relationship with Europe. How far away, though, is Chimeng County from Tunxi? It's within an hour. So all of these places, from the Yellow Mountain down to the south of the border of Anhui, were in some way all related to merchant activity and tea activity. Both things going on at the same time. And at varying periods, Tunxi rose to everybody's consciousness, and then sometimes not in everybody's consciousness because other places were becoming more famous. So that's why most of you, unless you have gone with us to Tunxi, didn't realize that, oh, Tunxi's a thing. It's because it's been an up and down thing, but the area itself has been idyllic from the start. They even do major films because they have sets. They love using the set of Tunchi itself because it's preserved the Ming and Qing heritage of architectural stuff.
Does the lake that the artist draw on, so Tunchi is the name of the area, and what is the name of the lake that the artists that most commonly sit around to draw, if you recall, and it's TUNXI, right?
TUNXI, yes. The name of that lake I have forgotten, but you know what? I can find that because we've taken customers there. There is there's a fun bridge across it. I'll think of it, or I'll get that for you next week. So that's the intro, that's the historical background, and that gives you a little bit about the process. Let's go ahead, yes, because I can tell I'm getting thirsty. Let's go ahead and take a 10-second commercial break here. And I will switch positions and the tea master will come into view and we'll brew this. You know what I really need during these commercial breaks is Yo-Yo Ma Silk Road music in the background. Wouldn't that be cool? Maybe I can get that handled. All right, so it is my great pleasure after this introduction to Tunchi to bring forth the numinous in a great mood,
Okay.
attractively adorned tea master.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. So we do, the green tea, So John, just talking about, the tea from the Tunxin and Anhui. So yeah, so I prepare, the 5 grams is each. Okay, we do it together. No, not we do it together. Demonstrate first. Okay.
Yes, demonstrate first. So we'll demonstrate how to do this. Setup is what you would expect. We use 3 cups. You only need 2 cups. A strainer. 2 cups and a strainer is all you absolutely have to have. We use 3 cups because we can cool down the water faster. Tea master is making sure that water is aerated, steam is dissipated, and glasses are clean. Glasses clean is vitally important. And it's vitally important because tea is so sensitive to foreign smells, foreign tastes, and anything that doesn't belong on a glass in terms of leftover stains or anything, tea will pick up. So that's why we always go through this routine, and you should do the same. So tea master is drawing 175-degree water. It's already heated the cups. Notice the nice rhythm. Not in a hurry. We just want it to be accomplished in a steady way, rhythmic way. We want you to be present when you're doing this. And so you see the tea master touching the side of the cup because she's trying to determine, is it about the right temperature? So we really want this at 170, no more than 175. Now, she takes care to handle the tea without touching it. puts it in a heated cup, smells it, determines, oh yeah, this is Swanky, all right. Puts the water back in the kettle because it's got a nice spout. And she can control how it's poured or how it arrives in the cup. So without pouring directly on the leaves. And the timer is set for 3 minutes. The recipient cup. And you're ready to go for 3 minutes. So this is nice. You see, for this, tea leaves mostly hanging out on top. Little ones going to the bottom and standing up straight. So in the Tunxi area, is this tea famous? It absolutely is famous. But once you get outside of Anhui Province, most people have not heard of this tea. If you're in Anhui, you know this tea because everybody wants to snag a little bit. The locals want to snag a little bit. Anhui has this enormous richness in terms of green tea. Premier's Choice, Wong's Creation, Yellow Mountain Reserve. It's got this fabulous set of green teas. It's got a fabulous set of yellow teas, and it's got a fabulous set of red teas. I mean, there is no lack of tea resources in Anhui Province. So this is why almost everybody in Anhui drinks tea, and they're discriminating because they have so many choices. You can't be as discriminated when you don't have choices. Now, you've heard me talk over and over and over again about the wealth of tea in Fujian Province. Cliff teas, red teas, white teas. But Anhui is no less blessed. It's just different focus on varietals. So Anhui focus is on the green teas and the red teas. Fujian focus is on the oolongs and the red teas. But though Fujian has green teas, it does not have the riches of what Anhui has in terms of green tea. Green tea is really incredible that comes out of Anhui, and the techniques for processing the green teas were again heavily influenced by monks and monasteries, temples that existed in Anhui because they were all doing tea as well. Yes.
Is the processing of this tea, is the processing itself done within Tunxi or outside of Tunxi?
Oh, that's a great question. So the question is about where is the processing done for this tea? This particular tea was done in Tunxi. Not all Tunxi tea is done in Tunxi. However, what I would say is 90% of it is. A little bit leaves the local area and goes to other areas within about 50 miles of Tunxi. But it doesn't, if you're asking, does it go across provinces? No, no, it does not. Because they wouldn't know how to process this in the same way that people in Tunxi do. And again, 90% is just processed on the farm. Very, very little of this goes to any industrial or organized processing. So look at this beautiful color. Translucent, not opaque. You look down into it. Oh, yeah. There's some trichome activity in this. And let's enter the quality arena. So remembering when we enter the 170-degree quality arena, we can take a bigger sip Gonna coat the tongue, try and determine where the astringency is, what the aftertaste is, and what the energetics. So let's not you do it. Let me do it. This is so distinctive. This tea overall. The astringency is a certain way, which you'll let me know. I get aftertaste. I'm gonna take a second and I'm gonna think about taste and aroma. I'm making mental notes. Hope all of you have your notes out from Lavish and Yellow Mountain Reserve, because this is different. It's very different. And I emphasize to you that so many people think green tea is one extremely narrow band. Compared to cliff teas, if you're saying it in that way, yes, it is a narrower band, but it's not this tiny narrow band. It actually is. There are a lot of flavors that are going on within these green teas. And if you're present, which we always are, you're detecting all of this. All right, it's your turn to brew. Get your tableau, or you have it already set up. You have your timer set up 3 minutes. It's package number 1 of this session. It's labeled Swanky. You notice just rhythmically getting the tools already. Just not in a hurry, just very much aware of all the steps and following each one, making sure that the tools are arranged in a way which is convenient to access. Now, from an attitude standpoint, getting ready to have fun with this morning. Dissipating the steam. Why is that important again? Because anything you can do to kind of make the water trend downwards, because remember, we started at 175 and we're trending it downwards, seems to bring out the best flavor, particularly of green teas. No rush, just very present. Over here. So getting out your package labeled Swanky. Oh, and I said this was package number 1. What in the world was in my head? It's package number 3. Sorry about that. You put the water in, trying not to pour directly on the leaves. Timer is set for 3 minutes, which is already started. You put hot water in the recipient cup.
Out of the gate, Jeremy comments, aroma is roasted vegetal and with field notes.
You know, this is a great comment. Thank you, Jeremy. Roasted. You can definitely taste the roast in this. Smell roast, I'm sorry. Vegetal. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So this is, the vegetal suggests more of a heavier flavor. And then Jeremy ended it with field notes. I love this description because you can take this anywhere you want. Which field did you grow up in? That could be that field. But I really take it to be more of a field where there's lots of aromatic green plants, not aromatic because of flowers, but aromatic just from the plant itself. Great starting description. So, oh, go ahead.
Kathy shares, I smell a sweet malty aroma as well.
Sweet malty aroma. Thank you, Kathy. That's a good catch. That's a very good catch. Particularly that malty and then the sweet. Sweet, malty, in addition to those field notes. Absolutely there. Yes.
Bill and Teresa comments, so many trichomes, exclamation point.
Ah, yes. Small variety. You don't know exactly what you're going to get. And that's the fun of small variety. And so Dylan and Teresa comment, oh, yeah, there's a ton of trichomes in this. And there are.
Rob observes the warm and steeped leaves have a sweet umami scent with hints of florality and vegetality. However, the tea water smells like a sweet, not very salty ocean. It's very smooth.
This is so interesting. Rob indicates, let's start with the tea water, that there's a hint of sweetness with seawater almost in the taste. I assume that's
The
it.
smell of the tea water.
I'm sorry, the smell of the tea water. Okay. And then the smell of the leaves, umami, sweet,
Florality.
plurality, what?
And vegetality.
Vegetality. Great catch on all counts. I love the fact that you captured umami in here because in spite of the fact that it is so distinct with that vegetality, and a couple of you have already noted that, there is definitely an umami-ness associated with this. And there's also that background sweetness, which for a green tea, how often do you say sweetness? Typically, well, at Sophie's, you say it all the time. So, I mean, a non-Sophie's green tea. Oh, and nothing exists.
Who would drink a non-Sophie's
Yeah, who would
green
drink
tea?
a non?
tried to
Yeah,
avoid that
I knew
experience.
that was a mistake as soon as it left my mouth. Great catch. Great catch.
Dylan and Teresa comments, so smooth and soft in the mouth.
Smooth and soft in the mouth. Dylan and Teresa capture this feeling. And that's a great call because you're catching both an intensity of the vegetality, maltiness, but then as you actually taste it, it's like, oh my gosh, this is going down really easily because it's so soft and mellow. Great catch.
Peter says, the tea liquor is thick, but the flavors are very light at first to me. I notice the astringency coming forth as I take more sips, and it's got me thinking about the different qualities of astringency. This one is absolutely lively on the tongue, not like a furry feeling, but a sharper. Am I tasting minerality in this?
Oh, this is a very interesting comment by Peter and captures a lot of different things. So let's start with the tongue feel because he notices something that instantly came to my mind. The first sip I took, hardly detected astringency. There was a little bit there, but as I continued drinking it, and Peter notes this, it's thick, and then on comes the astringency, and it builds. So yes, it does build. He then posits a question related to that thickness, related to the build, and the question really is, am I detecting minerality? So we have to be careful. If by minerality we're really looking back, or we're looking to the south, the Fujian and Wuyi Mountains, we're not detecting that. If the question really is, are we detecting elements within the soil? The answer would be yes. And the reason I'm cautious about using minerality and like more the sense of, wow, this is bringing forth qualities of this particular soil, is because minerality for most people in China points back to the Wuyi Mountains. That term by itself seems to point to the Wuyi Mountains. But when you talk about, yeah, I'm tasting the soil and I'm tasting the elements in this soil, in this, I get that. I get that. And that's okay to say because it's really there. I get the elemental nature that's coming through, but it's not the same as minerality from, just because the constituents are so different. And so that's why I want to kind of really dig down into that comment. What was the first part of his comment?
The first comment, part of the comment was a little moment here on the thickness of the tea liquor.
Oh, yeah, the thickness. Let's go back to that as well. This is very thick. And Peter indicates, and I like that you did this, Peter, that this thickness tricks you. He didn't use the word trick, but in essence, the idea was you get attached to that thickness and you miss other things until you start tasting into it. And that's a really, and this also ties back to Dylan and Teresa's comment about mellowness, because sometimes when you're in the mellowness of a tea and the comfort of a tea, and oh my God, this is good, you forget that this is also tied. It's so good because it's really distinct and thick. And I love the fact that you picked that up. I also love the fact that many of you, including I think Kathy was the first one who talked about maltiness. Now, I think everybody's beginning to come clear on that maltiness, because it is absolute. The more you drink this, it's like, oh my gosh, malty and a little umami and lots of stuff, and clearly vegetal. Lots of stuff going on with this. This thing is trying on several nice pieces of clothing down the road here. Yes.
Jeremy observes the light yellow greenish liquor was at first slightly dry and juicy. And then as for tongue feel, it's unusual, but a not unpleasant dryness constrained to the front of the tongue. This tea evolves, changes, it's spirited.
Love Jeremy's description. Let's start at the end. Her conclusion, and it's not unlike what all of you are reaching, but Jeremy uses a different word. She says it's spirited. It's almost like this is a crossover comment. It's not only about how it behaves in the mouth, it's about the totality of the energetics. And Jeremy points out, ever changing. It isn't stand still. It doesn't let you get comfortable. some of the teas. So in comparison to, say, Lavish, which we started this series out with, Lavish lets you get comfortable. And it's more, you drink it fast because you're so comfortable. Jeremy started, hey, this was juicy, and there was this tendency to want to drink fast, and then there's changeability. There's other things going on. Peter reinforced it, thickness, umami. Yeah.
Jen adds, the scent isn't heavy. It's like driving past an early morning dewy green field with sweet corn. The tea water has the slightest thickness that grows as it cools, but not enough to be obnoxiously tacky. Overall taste smooth, pleasant, flavors of steamed corn and greens, and some hints of florality and earth on the back of the tongue for me.
Love Jen's comment here. And there's two aspects to this comment. One is the fact that the initial aroma gives you as if you're driving by a field, a dewy field. So almost like a foggy, dewy field. And you know you're driving by that field because of the aroma of it. That's a great starting point to think of this. And then she traverses from there into the last sentence. The last sentence was beautiful.
The overall taste smooth and pleasant, flavors of steamed corn and
That's right.
greens
There you go.
with some hints of florality and earth.
Steamed corn and greens, hints of florality and earth. I'll tell you, this captures a complex tableau, and it is a complex tableau that all of you are picking apart. I like this description very nearly the best because in addition to the aroma and the subtleness, but obviousness at the same time, Jen inserts steamed corn, and it truly has for me as well, a steamed corn feel to the flavor of it. Great catch.
Rob says, I'm sipping this with my eyes closed and I feel like I'm lighter without a care in the world.
So Rob is commenting on energetics. He sips it with his eyes closed, and for him, it makes him attain a state of lightness, attain a state of not having a care in the world. And why is this stuff important for all of us? Because when we swig tea and go through quickly, yeah, there are times in the day when you got to do that. But when you're present with tea, then you can really think about, well, 2 weeks ago I had Lavish. I didn't have that feeling. Last week I had Yellow Mountain. I only had a portion of that feeling. You really start to understand these teas, and you then become the true tea professionals that you are. And you can stand with tea professionals everywhere in the world because you're taking the time to parse it out and then put it back together and then describe it. It's beautiful. Yes.
Jennifer observes that the initial taste was light with a hint of buttery finish. As I get deeper into the cup, the vegetal tastes present themselves to me.
Love this comment. Jennifer says initial taste was buttery, light. But then as she goes through, there's that vegetality, which floats right up there. So all of you in different poetic terms are getting to a eventual thickness, lightness at the beginning, butter and corn. Wow, what a nice combination. Vegetality. Nobody leaves vegetality. And most of the time, when you hear people talk about vegetality, does that usually make you think, oh yeah, I'm gonna love this? Or does that make you think asparagus again? But not here, not here at all. This vegetality is, and Jen captured it by talking about steamed corn and greens together. So it gave this range. And in addition, Rob nailed that umami. So that whole range gives you something really interesting with vegetality, which is hard to put your finger on and say, well, it is only this flavor of vegetality. It is not. It's this whole range of flavors, and you're all proving it to yourselves. Yes.
Paul observes for him, he gets a visual from everybody's descriptions. The descriptions above paint a picture of a field in my mind.
Oh, this is great. So Paul's commenting on all your descriptions. I appreciate this comment, Paul, in the fact that without a doubt, he loves hearing these descriptions because he's in the fields. It gives him that clear picture of what this tea is about.
Energetically, Peter shares, I'm experiencing a filling in, a grounding, and a deeper sense of my body that goes with the thickness of the tea.
So Peter amplifies the energetics because he talks about filling in, amplification of the feeling or the thickness of this tea. And this is important because when one is casually drinking tea and is distracted, you would never get to this. But when you're drinking tea to be present, then all of a sudden, all of this is accessible. And again, it's the language that when you talk to tea professionals, they know you're a tea professional. Oh, you must have been doing this for 50 years. Your descriptions are that good. And it's not so much descriptions as it is your ability to be present. Once you get present, you get real good at describing what's going on here, at encompassing the energetics as well. Fabulous. Wow. This takes all the words from my mouth. Oh, as it should, since I only have 2 more minutes worth of words in my mouth. But really, this is all of you reaching down, taking the time and taking good notes and thinking about this whole process of green tea. Again, green tea is as varied as the cliff teas. It's just that the distinguishing features don't have as wide an entry point, but they are definitely there. There are definitely distinguishing features, and this is how you determine, oh, this is my favorite. And here's why. Because you're present, you're able to get through this. And so these exercises that we're going through together always improve me. And particularly the way that you reach down in a very thoughtful way. It always makes me want to do better as we go out and get other teas, because I know that all of you will appreciate them. Yes.
Jeremy asks, how did you name this tea Swanky? The word evokes the roaring 20s to me, not the satisfying, wondrous experience of this tea, but that's okay.
Well, thank you. I'm glad it is okay that I named this tea Swanky, because I became attached to this. And the reason I became attached to this has to do with it has so many styles of approach. And so, and each style is a high class style from my perspective. This is my personal perspective. So this one didn't take me long to name, because to me, these differing styles and rotating styles were so obvious. It's like somebody who is always wearing a different outfit, always coming in looking very fashionable. Hints for me, Swanky, but I accept if your imagination went somewhere else and you thought something different, but at least you know the origin of why I thought. And again, I salute all of you because you captured all the same elements I captured. We may come to different conclusions about how to name that in total, but we all have the same underlying understanding. So great job, great job. So we concluded the first three of these green teas. We're about to enter the second three. And so next week, we have to be on guard. We should be sentinels. I think we're going to do sentinel next week. And being on guard after that, we hope we catch something dazzling. Oh, that's the next one after that. And in our hearts, following that, we have to appreciate the graciousness of nature. So, sentinel, dazzling, and graciousness are what follow. You're in for a real treat with all three of those. Your responsibilities this week, keep healthy. You let all those bugs and germs and bad influences, they stay out there. We're the tea family. We're the tea world. We stay in here. Have a great week. I'll see you next week. Take care now.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.